Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the SWAPA Probie to Pro video series. Today we are talking about the unique requirements for red-eye duty periods. Red-eyes were introduced at Southwest in 2025 and have since become more prevalent across the system, so let's talk about it. First, let's define it. A red-eye duty period is any duty period that crosses 0200 domicile time. Section 9 Foxtrot of the CBA discusses the parameters for designing pairings. There, you will see that the maximum duty period for a red-eye pairing that reports after 1700 domicile time is 9 hours and 30 minutes. Rest requirements are also different for red-eye pairings. 9 Foxtrot 7 requires 12 hours of scheduled rest prior to any duty period with a release time after 0200 and a rest period of 12 or 15 hours following the red-eye, depending on the release time. During execution, those times can be reduced to 11 or 14 hours after assignment per 12 Foxtrot 2 Alpha. The NOC and crew scheduling place special emphasis on protecting the rest period prior to red-eye duty periods by limiting reroutes and disruptions to aircraft flows, but there is no guarantee of this protection. Make sure you have the appropriate opportunity to get 8 hours of sleep and that you show up for the red-eye duty period rested. If your rest is disrupted and you are unable to achieve adequate rest, please notify crew scheduling and exercise the fatigue policy as you would for any other duty period. For more information about the fatigue policy, check out the fatigue episode of this series. SWAPA Safety has been tracking red-eye operations and developed some best practices to mitigate fatigue risk associated with red-eye flying. This document is in comply under Flying Safety Resources. The biggest takeaway is to have a well-thought-out sleep and/or napping plan. We have learned from our industry partners and from our own analysis that a pre-departure nap is the single most powerful tool to prevent fatigue during the red-eye leg. Schedule your sleep and napping to ensure that you are awake no longer than 16 hours at the completion of duty. This will ensure that you have an adequate sleep bank. In the extended rest period before your red-eye duty period, try to sleep as much as possible from 0200 to 0600 and nap again before your report time. Clip the curtains together and use earplugs and eye masks for the best daytime rest. Also have a coffee and food plan. While company hotels should have food available 24 hours per day, airport vendor operating hours limit options at the airport. Be prepared with snacks and caffeine to get you through the flight. Also, check KCM operating hours at your report location as they may be closed for late night reports. In addition, KCM hours are not always what they have published, so be prepared to use normal security lanes. And finally, after arrival back to domicile, consider using the crew quiet room for a nap before driving home, as there have been several reports of fatigue onset while driving home following a red-eye pairing. Caffeine intake immediately prior to a 45-minute nap is an effective strategy to help with alertness during the drive. And as always, if something doesn't go according to plan and you are not rested, utilize the fatigue policy. Let's wrap up this discussion now with a few more contractual touches on red-eyes. CBA Section 2 Juliet 7 defines night override as 3% of the leg credit for any leg scheduled or operated between 0100 and 0500 pairing domicile time. 2 Mike 2 states that red-eye wraps that cross 0200 domicile time are guaranteed at 7 TFP instead of the standard 6. As of the time of this recording, red-eye pairings in ELIT are considered to have 2 duty periods for duties to cover calculations, even though they cover 3 domicile days. That means that if you want to trade out of a standard 3-day pairing into a 3-day red-eye, you need a net 0 of 1. If you trade out of a red-eye into a 3-day, net 0 will increase by 1. However, this is a technology glitch that is scheduled to be fixed. Additionally, Red-eye ETOPS pairings can only be traded for other red-eye ETOPS pairings. Okay, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching the SWAPA Probie to Pro video series. Please send us your feedback about this series or anything else at com@swapa.org, and we'll see you next time.